Yeah, 49 to 51. This is sort of the turning point for much of the rest of the book. From Isaiah chapter 40, as we've seen in the last few weeks, the tone has shifted. That God is done judging his people and their sinfulness and their rebellion, and that he is going to restore them. He is going to bring them back to their land, and he is going to be their God again. Because God is a God who never abandons his people. Even when people abandon him and turn themselves over fully to their sin and face the judgment for that choice, even then, God never gives up on his people. And so in Isaiah 40, we see this turning point where God is going to call his people back and restore them and be their God, and they will be his people again. And we get these glimpses of God's judgments over Israel's enemies of Babylon, of these people who oppressed and enslaved God's people. And we get these promises of how God is going to restore the people back to a place of blessing again. And that they'll no longer be scorned, but they will be crowned with glory. And in chapters 49 to 51, we get the beginning hints of the picture of how exactly God is going to do that. That gets fleshed out in next week's chapters, we'll see. But this is the first introduction that we have of a servant who is going to come. Someone who is going to be sent by God, who is of God, who is going to turn the tide for the people. That because of him and the work that he's going to do, that everything is going to change. So what do we find out about this servant in chapters 49 to 51? Well, first, we know that he is obedient to God and God's word. So he doesn't falter or fade like God's people have done in the past. No, he remains true. He sticks to obeying God's word. Secondly, he fully relies and trusts on God as his strength. Even when it seems like no one is turning back, and even when enemies are sort of crouched around him, he has this unwavering trust in God, in the Lord. Thirdly, this person is obedient even in the midst of persecution and humiliation. We have people who are pulling his beard and, hurting him, and yet this person is still obedient, even if it means giving up their life. This gets fleshed out more in the next few chapters, as we'll see. But this is the opening picture of how is God going to restore the fortunes of his people? How are God's people going to be forgiven of their sin? How are they going to receive God's comfort and be welcomed into his family once and for all? How are they going to receive the promise? Well, the answer is this servant who is of God, who's obedient, who is true, who trusts in God for everything, and continues to serve God even in the midst of persecution, pain, and death. Who is this person? Well, we don't know yet. We just get these glimpses in these first couple chapters that talk about this servant character that get fleshed out even more through the rest of the book. You, being good, smart, Bible-reading people, have already probably figured out who this person may be. Who fits those categories of someone who is sent by God, who is obedient fully to God and his laws, who trusts fully in God for his salvation, and serves God even to the point of death. Hopefully you can figure it out. We'll see you next week. Bye.